It was the most disappointing afternoon of all on our travels on Sunday when the town lost 2-0 to arch-rivals Watford at Vicarage Road. Alongside me to look back on the game, maybe do a few other things as well, is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, Derby Day on the Sabbath, but once again the town fans' prayers went unanswered.
Yeah, not even Christ could save us yesterday.
Nope, we will look back on it with a little bit of a twist after this intro.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned before the intro, we're going to take a much briefer look back, has to be said, at Derby Day than what we usually would. And, Jimbo put a tweet out after the game asking whether you want us to dissect the derby in full detail or have a discussion about crisps, which is a pretty random topic, but we'll come on to why that might have been shortly. Jimbo, we answer what the people want, so we're going to do both, aren't we? We'll have a quick look back at the derby and then we'll have a bit of fun with some crisps.
I put it out as a joke because I fancied some crisps at the time because Watford didn't feed us much, and I put it out as a joke because of what we'd just seen and put a little poll on it thinking nobody would respond, and then 75% of people that did respond want us to talk about crisps, and I'm happy to oblige if it means we just don't have to talk about the football because there was a lot to get your teeth into there. But we've loaded up on crisps and we're going to give the people what we want. So for one time only, hopefully, this is the Luton Town Supporters Trust Crisp podcast.
Crisp Crisis podcast, I think we'll go with. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, the only thing that could save yesterday from my point of view, and even then it was a token gesture, was a crisp sandwich, which is where the whole thing originated from. We'll get stuck into crisps and everything else in a minute.
Oh, so it's your fault.
Absolutely.
You made me have a hankering for crisps. I mean, to be honest, I don't need much of a trigger to want me having some crisps. So.
And at the same token, right now, I don't need much of a trigger to not talk about football.
Well,
so.
I mean, look at us here. Who would have thought it? Us two blokes here sitting talking about crisps. We've got smiles on our faces because I didn't have one when I thought about coming here to talk about football. And I guess really that's the point. A little bit of a break because we're in here relentlessly
and we know
kind of talking about the same things. And
that's it. We know that the podcasts are a bit depressing. They're depressing for us to record. The football's not a great deal better. It's hard for you guys to watch. And we really, really, really appreciate all those of you that have managed to watch the last few podcasts because, you know, they're just repeating each other. And if we covered yesterday's game how we normally would cover a game, it's only going to repeat itself again. Defensive mistakes, lack of plan, lack of clue in how to get back into a game. Only this time it was the game where the very least you'd have expected was a bit of fight, being up for the battle. But unfortunately, I can't even say that I saw that either.
No, we should say up front. Look, listen, we're going to talk about the match. So if you want to hear about the match, we're going to be here for you. But if you just want to hear the crisp bits, we're going to be there for you too. If you don't like crisps, if you want to sit this one out, fair enough. I love crisps, and that's all it is. But we are going to have to talk about the game, aren't we? And listen, it was the worst. It was the worst outcome possible. Not necessarily the scoreline, that could have been worse, but everything else, what we saw, confirmed many people's beliefs. And I've seen like a video that the BBC did afterwards of people outside the ground. That many people believe that it's over now. Watford didn't do this, by the way. Watford didn't. It just makes it worse. Watford didn't relegate us, and we're not relegated. The stats say there's plenty of games to play for if you want to have an optimistic hat on, I think. But most people, I think, can't see where that is, because you've gone to a ground against your arch rivals, which you should be up for anyway. They've lost 5 on the spin at home, and they absolutely tore Luton apart in the first half. And it was Luton as the architects of their own downfall again, which is why I'm saying, look, we're just repeating ourselves here, aren't we? Because they shot themselves in the foot for the first goal. Don't need to make that. You can have a debate about whether you think the referee should have given a penalty or not, but it shouldn't have even got to that situation in the first place, with an absolute cock-up between Mads Andersen and Thomas Kaminski. And then the second one is just, there wasn't a white shirt near Chekvatadze until Burke, the last man on the 6-yard area, and then even that didn't provide much resistance. So for a decent-ish start where it looked comfortable, and then to just a crazy 12 minutes where you lost it, it was lost in 12 minutes, and everybody thought it was game over at half-time, and it was, because you can talk about an improved second-half performance if you like, but Watford had a cigar on and still didn't land a glove on them, and they had better chances. So that's where we are. We're now 5 points from safety because of the results on the day before. We haven't scored on 5 occasions under Matt Bloomfield's 8 appearances. We've now conceded the third most goals in the division, which is remarkable, but Portsmouth have conceded more, who were playing next, but have scored more. We've not scored enough. 31 goals in 34 games, and it didn't look like we were going to score at Vicarage Road. And so all of those things into the melting pot, and I don't know, I'd love to know if anybody is optimistic, because I'd like a little bit of it, because I'm not sure that most people are.
No, just to clarify, Bell, not Burke. We would have loved Burke to have been the last man on the 6-yard box yesterday, because it would have meant that he's fit and ready to play.
A man can dream.
Indeed so, yeah. Listen, could it have been a different game after 5 minutes? Yes, it probably could have been, probably should have been. There's no one will tell me any otherwise that Jeremy Ngakia should have been sent off. Don't worry about the fact he's not the last man. The tackle is on the inside of his thigh. That if that's not dangerous, then I don't know what is. That's a red card tackle, and you only had to look at the geezer's reaction. He knew full well that he'd made a horrible tackle. The ball's long gone. He hadn't played the ball. He's just wiped the man out. That's a red card. All day long, that's a red card. Now, had he have sent Ngakia off, do I still think Luton would have won yesterday? No. We'd have found another way to shoot ourselves in the foot. It's what this team do. He would have probably got the crowd's backs up, because they'd have presumably seen that he wasn't the last man and assumed he'd been sent off for being the last man. So we'd have found another way to lose. Same as if the penalty wasn't given. Was it a penalty? Wasn't it a penalty? Who really cares? Yeah, I think, for what it's worth, I think it was a penalty. I mean, Christ, Mads and Kaminski have been here 18 months now. If one hasn't worked out that the other one ain't coming off his goal line by now, he's never going to work it out. Put it in the stands, pick him up, and maybe chuck him in there as well, because, you know, that situation just cannot be allowed to fester. To be fair to Mads, he has shielded the bloke for as long as he can shield the bloke, but you can't shield someone forever. Now, when that foul takes place, it's dead level with the penalty spot, so that has come 6 yards into the goalkeeper's box. At which point is he actually I mean, he did come out, to be fair to him. I mean, he came out in super slow motion. If he'd come out at any kind of reasonable speed, let alone whether he was on his toes or not, he'd have got there. He'd have had ample time, because Mads was screaming at him, come, come, come. He was holding the guy off as long as he could have done. Must have been holding the guy off for a couple of seconds, 2 or 3 seconds. Eventually he's going to get round him at some point. It's just an absolute show. And then he's got the audacity to say, oh, look, I've got the ball in my hands. Well, maybe you have, mate, but you've still taken the striker out. Pointless.
Yeah, it was a penalty for me. I thought it was, rudimentary, basic, stupid error that a schoolboy would make in the first place. And even when I look at the replay, you can look at different angles and think, well, maybe he got the ball, but he also got the player. And in this day and age, I just see that they get given more times than anything else. I don't think it's even 50-50.
You give a referee a question to make, you can't complain when he gives you the answer you don't like, Don't give him the question. What did I say in the preview? I said I only said two things in the preview because we didn't want to focus on Watford very much in the preview. I said they get the most penalties and they've had the most penalties in the Championship. So whatever we do, be careful in our penalty box. The other thing I said, there's only one player on this team you have to watch out for. He wears number 8, and I can now say his name, Chakfatadze. Did we look out for him? Did we buggery? He ran the show from start to finish.
We did look at him.
Of course,
we looked at him. We thought, run all the way from the halfway line.
We looked at his arse a lot because he was pulling away from us.
This is what I don't understand, because I saw it in real time and I see it on the replay. He turns Mads on the halfway line. They're about 2 yards away from each other, and within a second or two, he's 10 yards away, and Mads is jogging back, or maybe he just can't. He can't because he doesn't have the pace. I don't know, but the gap that opened up was ridiculous. There was no one there. Then he gets to Amari'i, slight drop of the shoulder. The tackle's not strong enough, or
the tackle shouldn't even be made.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then it's just, as soon as you get to the byline in that position, that's going to be a goal, isn't it?
But before we go there, Doumbia has the ball, doesn't he? With Mads sort of shepherding him, and actually Rue Waters has got Chakfatadze, but for some reason Rue Waters bites on the ball, and Chakfatadze's away and gone. Sorry, but again, you've got one man to worry about. Don't worry about Doumbia. They were all wondering whether he was even going to start now that they had Bacco back. Don't worry about him. There is only one. You saw it at Kenilworth Road. You stop the number 8 from playing, they can't play. Okay, they had Loser this time, but he was playing very, very deep, thankfully. Otherwise, it could have been an even worse afternoon than what it was. But yeah, he goes through. All Bell's got to do is stand him up, and he's going to run out of room. Just stand up. But it says to me he doesn't want to be physical with the guy. Just stand up, go shoulder to shoulder with him. Your goalkeeper's at the near post. There's absolutely no danger there. He's either going to run out of room or he's got to turn back on himself, at which point you should be able to make the tackle. No, he sold himself in the tackle. Didn't want to know. You'd have got past him. It was that simple. And then once the ball's across, Alfie's got no chance. And it's a tap in. It's just poor defending from a team that for the last 9 months has defended in a poor fashion. Let's be honest, Jimbo. At 11 o'clock, we knew exactly what we were going to watch. Nothing that we watched was in any way, shape or form different to what we expected once that team lineup was announced.
And that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? Because you see, Cal Naismith was by far and away the best player against Plymouth, and we were talking that was a good performance from the team, but he was the best player. And then to see him not there with an injured hamstrings. Hopefully it's just a strain. We'll see. But who is going to hold out hope that that's going to rectify itself? Mark McGuinness, we were pretty certain anyway that wasn't going to play. But there was enough players back in there to get a defensive lineup if Cal Naismith was there. But once he's not, all composure gone. And that's exactly what it showed. So, yeah, you know, if you thought that the game would be a hard watch at 11 o'clock, then you know certainly by
half 12,
you knew it was over, and it was a long, horrible afternoon.
And what made it longer? No alcohol for Luton fans. I can tell you now, there was 2,100 or something in the away end. It wouldn't have been 200 in that away end for the second half if the bars were open, because we'd have all gone, because there was nothing. People keep telling me that we played well in the second half. Don't believe it. They'd gone back into neutral by then. And as Jimbo said earlier on in the podcast, Chakfatadze still had the only shot on target in the half.
And Loser had a shot which should have
scored.
Going over, so they had the better shot. And anyway, that's a pretty bad start, isn't it? But shall we liven it up?
We will liven it up. We just got to touch on a few things. 3 changes at half time. One was an absolute sham. People don't want to see Shandon Baptiste play for this football club anymore. It's not me saying it. It's people around me. It's all Luton fans that are paying 35 quid to go into enemy territory. That's twice now he's come off the bench. And okay, he finished the game on Wednesday night, but he struggled to finish the game on Wednesday night and lasted 20 minutes?
25 minutes.
25 minutes.
Yeah.
It's an absolute waste of a substitution. What does it say to Lamine Fanner that he can't even get on the bench when this guy can't even complete 20 minutes? I'm not blaming him. his body is what his body is. But there were so many clues when we signed this bloke that he has no regular game time in him whatsoever. And it's just come home to roost. And to do that at your rivals, it's just embarrassing. The whole afternoon was embarrassing enough anyway, but to have to substitute a substitute who you nearly had to substitute, having been a substitute in the last game, what the hell are we thinking? Well, we think that's not even if he managed to do the 45 minutes, that body can't stand up to what the rigours of a derby should be. It wasn't, because we weren't up for the fight, but what it should be. I mean, Hellfire on Wednesday night was kicking a football as well that created it. At least this time it looked like it was a genuine injury. But anyway, that was the worst of the substitutions. The best one was Christ Makosso. Very much the surprise name on the team sheet when it was announced. Where the bloody hell have we been hiding him? He looks like he can defend.
That was one of the bright spots, wasn't it? And
bright spot, along with Izzy Jones.
Izzy Jones.
Sorry, yeah.
But, mostly of Izzy Jones. But his final ball wasn't up to scratch, and that has been the case for quite some time.
And his diving's regressed from the days that he flew over Amari'i at Middlesbrough as well.
Yeah. I mean, if he could deliver, if his final delivery was on point more often than it's not, then it'd be outstanding. But at the moment it isn't, so that needs to improve. But I mean, at least he ran at them and he tried to create something. And yeah, Christ Makosso, when he come on, obviously Luton looked a lot more solid, but not totally solid. There was one wobble he had, but I think the thing about that is that even though he had a wobble, he had the athleticism to correct himself and get him out of it. I think it's just what we've seen for a season and a half or more is that when he had that wobble, you're like, oh my God, not again. It's just this seeming blunder disease is just infecting everyone, but it didn't, and that's good. And I think, he looks very tall and imposing figure, and I think that I'd just play him now.
Yeah,
you've just got to play him because at some point everyone in that defence has cost points, haven't they?
I mean, I've got to say, he came on from Mads Anderson, didn't he? That must be the worst 45 minutes of a defensive performance from an individual I've seen in a Luton shirt this season, and the competition is so bloody strong, it's unbelievable. That was terrible. Absolutely terrible. The mix-up for the first goal, the turn-in like the QE2 for the second one. What the was he doing with Tom Ince that got him a yellow card? I mean, don't worry about the fact that the ball's there, Mads. No, we'll wipe out Tom Ince. He ain't even any good. If you're wiping out the number 8, I might even applaud you for that. That's showing a bit. And now it's a bit of, you're taking the piss, son, and we're going to stop you from doing it. What was that all about? No wonder he went off.
I think, potentially frustration at, he's been so injury ridden. It hasn't had a lot of game, not up to scratch really in that half. And, he got the yellow card, and that I believe was the reason that he was taken off. But I think
that was the saving grace reason why he was taken off. He was taken off because he was atrocious.
I think that he was taken off because he wasn't cutting it in that half. And I don't want to get into a debate about the formation again. We're playing a 3 at the back, presumably to try and fit in Doughty and Izzy Jones. Izzy Jones has been playing one a wing back, but
you can fit them both into another formation, Jimbo.
It's not working. So maybe that's a discussion for the next podcast. But yeah, all around in that first half, just not good enough in the slightest. Not good enough at all. It's not good enough in any football match, but in a derby match, when they know what it takes because they did it at Kenilworth Road, it just speaks about a team that's so done for confidence. They can't muster themselves up for that game. They kind of expect there's a mistake in them. The fact that they can't score at the moment is a real worry. The table doesn't lie.
No, it doesn't. And it's starting to paint. The table is starting to paint the similar picture to what our eyes have been telling us for the last month now. I mentioned it in the last podcast. It hadn't. We were still only 2 points from safety at that point. We had to give it everything that we had. Now, we're 5 points from safety. It's 6 if you include goal difference. 12 games left.
Hull going up to Sunderland and ending their unbeaten record in a way that wasn't even on the cards when Luton went up there last week.
We didn't even look like
not at
going
all.
there,
but Hull can do that.
And they've been to Sheffield United and won as well, Hull.
That's the thing. When you're thinking, how would you get out of this? Who's going to drag them out of it? There doesn't seem to be anybody.
I agree. I think the bottom three look done. They look done to me. I mean, we saw Plymouth. I then watched Plymouth again on Saturday because their game was on television, and I know we've got Cardiff coming up, so I watched it. If you thought that they were bad against Luton, they were no better against Cardiff. They're just a bad side, and we couldn't beat them. Yeah. Cardiff would have done had they not have had a man sent off. For me, the rebuild needs to start, and it needs to start now. Anyone that we can go forward with, that we can't go forward with, we need to start phasing out now. Don't waste the next 3 months. And if we happen to stumble on a formation and an 11 that gets a couple of wins and gets us in the mix and maybe even keeps us up, then so much the better. But don't waste the next 3 months, because otherwise we're going to be in League One forever and a day. We are.
Well, I mean, I think that will be the case anyway. You have to look at the difficulties in Sunderland getting out, and Portsmouth are a big club, obviously coming up from the other way, but struggled to get out there for a while. You go down, it's not going to be a bounce back, I wouldn't imagine. I agree with you, there's a massive rebuild needed, and there are players that obviously they've signed and they're not particularly using it at the moment. We've seen them all now.
Oh, well, we need to go back to the formation we recruited for. This club needs a plan, and it needs a plan that it's going to stick to for longer than 2 weeks. And from now, we need to plan for the first game of next season. We hope it's in the Championship. Listen, bookmakers have got us 4-9 to go down, an implied probability of a 70% relegation. Bookmakers are very, very rarely wrong in that regard. So there is a strong chance that we're playing League One football next season. We need to be ready on the first day of next season with whatever our plan is, and it needs to be perfect. We've now got 12 games here to get a team together of what we've got, to find out what we then need to add to that team. Of course, we'll lose one or two that we hope to keep, and there aren't many of them, I wouldn't have thought, but Alfie Doughty would obviously be an automatic one. Maybe Liam Walsh, someone like that. But the rest of them, these players that we've signed, so your Millie Allies, your Josh Bowlers, your Lassie Nordasses, your Christ Makossos, Izzy Jones, these are the ones that need to play out the season now. You need to change the goalkeeper because he's not working either. He's causing more havoc. He's not going to be in next season, whether we're in League One or in the Championship. I refuse to believe we're going to start next season with a goalkeeper rooted to his goal line, and if we do, we deserve everything we get. Just put Shea in for the rest of the season. At least the defence looks composed behind
Shea's
James
not
Shea.
The second choice.
No, I know he's not, but Tim Krul's definitely not the answer either. It doesn't matter what division we're in next season, Tim Krul is not going to be at this football club as a footballer. I don't know if they bring him on as a coach, but at his age, there's no future in him with us in a club that needs to be turned around. So just give it to Shea until the end of the season, and then I don't know the situation with Jack Walton at Dundee United, whether he's part of the plans or he isn't, but his numbers are good. So if he comes back, at least at League One, he was more than competent because that's where we got him from. And maybe he is the future. But just put Shea in between the sticks now and get us through to the end of the season without too much more collateral damage in the defence. And go to the formation that we're recruited for, which is a 4-2-3-1. And if you have to play Cal Naismith as a left-back to get him into the side with presumably the centre-back pairing that's going to take us forward would be Makosso and McGuinness, then so be it. You know, that's a bullet that we're going to have to bite. Would that formation be perfect? No, but we're losing anyway. So let's make sure that we're ready for next season. Then the question has to be asked whether we have the manager who is the right manager to take us forward. We knew full well the risk we were taking when we employed Matt Bloomfield. This isn't on Matt Bloomfield at all. He had 2 previous jobs, and it took him 2 months on each occasion to get any semblance of a positivity going. We knew full well the risk that we were taking, that if that happened a third time, we were going to be left needing snookers, and that is exactly what has happened. It needed... I'll go back to when we covered Rob Edwards' sacking. He was a favourite to be the Luton job. We didn't even reference it because anyone with eyes could see that this needed a Championship experienced schnauzer, for the want of a better word, to get us out of trouble, and then you employ Matt Bloomfield once that's happened. They took the risk in the hope that, and potentially in the naive outlook, which, to be fair, I've been guilty of for a long time, thinking that we were too good to go down, albeit by the time Bloomfield was employed, I'd long since put that to bed and realised that we wasn't. And that risk is going to come home to haunt us because it's a failed risk. And I think the way out of League One is the John Still equivalent. If Matt Bloomfield is that, then that's fine. It's not for me to decide. That's for the people who employ him to decide that. But we're already in a situation where this club needs the John Still Conference turnaround, but the League One equivalent of it. And I don't know who that person is. I don't really follow League One. We haven't been in it for 6 years. I've not really looked at it. I mean, obviously, certain people regularly get clubs promoted from League One, Paul Warren being one. But it's a question that has to be asked. Is he the man? This is a turnaround that's going to need to be strong. It's going to need to be ruthless. And is he the man to do it? And these are questions that should be being asked today. And if he's not, then they should be looking forward now to the summer where they recruit that person. But as a football club, we've clearly recruited to play a formation that we're not currently playing. And that needs to be abandoned and go back to the original plan. Because if that's what you're spending 20 million quid on, then that's what you've got to stick with.
I'm bored of talking about three at the back and it not working, and it hasn't worked. I mean, it sort of briefly worked against Sheffield United, but only really for half because they reorganised, didn't they? And then
we caught them cold.
Saw
that happen.
And that's, but it hasn't worked again, and I don't think that we can persist with it. He's shown some ruthless streaks about him, and he's made those 7 changes for that game, and he's he's not playing the mean fanny for whatever reason, even though you've brought that up. And there's lots of these things. There's just so many problems. I'm not sure there's many people that can solve them. There's that many. If you can't score and you can't stop yourself from making silly mistakes at the back and giving them away, and that when you do, there's no puffing up your chest and rolling up your sleeves and fighting. It doesn't look like that because there's no actual chances being created. There was talk about did a lot of things right between both boxes, but that's not where football's won. So I wouldn't care if there was nothing going on in the middle third, as long as one end was secure and the other end was a bit more dangerous. But we're not seeing that, and there's problem after problem. You fix one thing, another problem opens up, and it all points to, sadly, can't believe it really, that we might be League One. Probably going to be League One.
Highly likely we're going to be League One, yeah. I mean, the problem that we've got, yes, Matt Bloomfield has got a good record in League One. That's the positive of him. If we don't win many more games between now and the end of this season, he himself might be taking a losing mentality into League One. And we've just had this problem at the start of this season where we've carried a losing mentality over and we haven't been able to turn it around. Surely we don't want that to happen again. At the very least, the person going into League One has to have the confident outlook that we haven't had at any stage in the Championship. Listen, let's hope we win some games by hook or by crook, and this is a moot point, but we've got to do everything we can to avoid a repeat of this season, because this season's just been a mess from start to finish.
Yeah, I think it would be a big stretch to suggest that he wouldn't be the manager, because they made a big thing about sticking by Rob. I think everybody was of the opinion that was a couple of months too late because of what he said at the Middlesbrough thing, and that's plain to see. But I don't think that I can't see that they would change that. I think that you can look at the two managers either way, but they cannot stop professional footballers making stupid errors. You can pick the right formation or the wrong one, obviously. You can pick the right or the wrong players. But I think what we're seeing now, the evidence is bearing out, there's something affecting this squad of players that two managers now have not been able to fix.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, my big concern with Bloomfield is that within 2 weeks he's wilted from his beliefs and he's gone back to this three at the back, which suggests, I mean, I can't believe he's done that necessarily himself. Otherwise, why would you have recruited? You've just had 2 weeks. If you even had any intention of playing three at the back, you'd have recruited for it. We only signed one centre back in amongst that lot, and we know full well we haven't got anyone of any use apart from McGuinness that's fit. And even Cal Naismith, we knew came with fitness concerns because he hadn't played since November, whenever it was, for Bristol City. If you're backtracking that quickly, is he a man for a crisis? And believe me, we start next season in a crisis. Listen, that's for all down the line. And I just come away from depressing myself about yesterday, and now the last half hour's got me depressed again. So let's change tack, because the one thing that kind of made me feel a bit better, like I said at the start of this podcast, was a crisp sandwich. But even then, I only had cheese and onion in, not salt and vinegar. So that was a bit of a letdown as well. It's not a great flavour, cheese and onion.
A cheese and onion is an actual sandwich filling, though. You can have cheese and onion crisp sandwich.
But I had crisps, not cheese and onion. Maybe I should have had cheese and onion and left the crisps for later.
I think you can. That's a decent sandwich. A cheese and onion crisp sandwich is a decent sandwich.
It just doesn't hit like a salt and vinegar one.
Well, fail to prepare to fail, mate. You should have had some in.
My Sunday away from the football pitch was very much similar to my Sunday watching the football pitch, unfortunately. Yeah, it didn't go down too well. So anyway, we've raided the local shop.
Yeah.
We've brought as many varieties of crisps as we can.
I'm really happy about this, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty hungry. I haven't had my dinner yet. So I'm glad we kept that short.
Yeah.
Let's do crisp.
Listen, we still covered far too much of that than we should have done. Yeah, I don't know where we go with this, to be honest, Jimbo. I mean, we're in a relegation battle. So which of these 6 packets of crisps down here would you take into battle with you? Let's show the crisps to us.
Right, it's a small selection. So and I don't know how this is going to sound on the mics and stuff, but if you want a more detailed and more upmarket selection, then you'll have to have a bit more notice and go to a bit better shop than the local coffee.
Although if you are watching, we appreciate the crisp selection that you've given us. So anyway, we've got flame grilled steak McCoy's.
Banger. This one's a wild card. New. Doritos Dynamite Extra Flaming Hot. Yeah, how did we end up with 2 McCoys?
Well, we've gone with the cheese and onion.
Cheese and onion.
It was literally the only cheese and onion that they had, to be fair.
So you wanted the cheese and onion. We've got, obviously, an absolute star. Pickled onion Monster Munch. You having that?
Oh, I am.
No.
I'm having roast beef Monster Munch more, but we'll go with pickled onion. It's fine.
You and me going to fall out if that's your opinion.
We haven't fallen out in 8 years about football, and we're about to fall out in 8 minutes about crisps. But
right, we've got What's-Its.
I'm not taking them into a relegation battle with me.
No, absolutely not. And an old childhood favourite. Space Invaders.
Now, even
Space
you would agree with me,
Raiders.
they should be pickled onion, right?
They should be. We could only find the saucy barbecue flavour.
Yeah.
So you might have made a selection error there.
That's
all that was available, wasn't it?
It is,
Off the bench.
Yeah.
Completed
options from the
Shouldn't
substance,
use football
unfortunately.
analogies to this.
I mean, What's-Its? They're not a relegation crisp, are they? Well, they are a relegation crisp. I suppose that's the point, isn't it? They're a bit soft and
Well, they're not going to stand up to much scrutiny.
they don't have much about them, do they? Unfortunately,
yeah, that's the thing. So you're not even going to open them.
not for a minute. We've got to decide which one is the.
What's the question?
Which one would we take into a relegation battle with? I mean, for me, it's the McCoy's.
It's got to be McCoy's, isn't it?
McCoy's all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This flavour, definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the daddy. Strong, reliable.
I mean, whilst we're talking about flame grilled steak, the goat of crisps is Royster's T-bone steak.
The absolute goat is Brannigan's roast beef and mustard.
Someone
mate.
replied to your tweet with that, didn't they? And you know what?
R.I.P.
I'm not sure I've ever been as hungry looking at a tweet in my life.
I mean,
it was rich, wasn't it?
Who decided to cancel those? They are the daddy of crisps. And if you've never had one, you never will because they've been discontinued. But my God, what a packet of crisps they were.
I think someone referenced Skips are also not one to take into a relegation battle with you.
Oh, no, they melt.
Yeah.
Absolute melt under pressure.
They would wilt. So Relegation battle, crisp, very much the real McCoys. If you're putting these 6 into a formation,
Yeah.
presumably you got this one as your goalkeeper. Sturdy, stands up, probably.
Okay, I'll have that as my goalkeeper.
So we've got the McCoys as your goalkeeper. Presumably then the other McCoys are going to be in the heart of your 6-a-side defence.
Yep, I'll have that.
If they're weak and nonsensical, they're up front, presumably. You don't want them in the engine room, do you?
You want a bit of punch up front. Got to be old monster munch. Bit of devil. That's your Danny Hilton of the crisp. That is absolutely all day long.
If you're watching, Danny, that was meant in the best intent.
Oh,
he was in the away end yesterday.
They are the best. They're one of the best. It's not a crisp, is it? It's a corn-based snack, but we'll expand the definition.
You know what?
That is one of the best.
I've never felt as low in my life as when you told me a Pringle is a biscuit yesterday.
Fun fact, yeah, but the High Court designated it a biscuit, which is mental.
Listen,
Yeah.
we've got 12 more of these to do, and biscuits might come up. Does that mean we can go and get as many tubs of Pringles as we like?
Yeah, it's a wild card, yeah.
Happy days. Where are we having the Watsits in this 6-a-side formation, by the way?
Do they have to play?
Well, it's
Well,
a 6-a-side team, man.
sort
All
of
right,
a-
5-a-side team, then you're on the bench.
Yeah, you can be on the bench. And for your absolute maverick, your absolute unpredictable one, it's got to be your Doritos Dynamite Extra
He's
Flaming
your number
Hot.
10, isn't he?
Absolutely.
A bit of everything.
Yeah. He'll Eric Cantona kick you if you but he can also dig out a cheeky little dink.
He has
He's definitely wearing his collar up, this one. And he's your man. He's the one.
Kick
Was that 5-a-side?
5-a-side with Watsits when something gets knackered.
They'll be knackered on the bench. There
Well,
you go.
Indeed.
That's a 5-a-side of what we had available. Have we got that right? You decide.
What crisps would you bring in for these? Bearing in mind, we did only have kind of a minute selection to go by, really.
Unless you were going to get those Bobby's spirals, the 60p ones, which are absolute
Or
nonsense.
onion rings or something. Yeah, no, we
Not
don't.
not for me.
I'll tell you what I would replace one of these with. Nice and spicy knickknacks.
All day long. They are one of the daddies.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't have any, to be honest. One of the daddies. And there's a fiery Cheetos flavour. Like a Watsits Crunch. That's what they are. Fiery Watsits Crunch. Not that rubbish. That pillowy rubbish that just melts. These are quality. In fact, they're better than knickknacks. Controversial. Telling you.
Given that we just had Derby Day, what would be the biggest crisp rivalry?
Hmm.
The most intense crisp?
Got to be McCoy's versus Walkers, isn't it?
Oof.
Got to be. I mean, there are better crisps out there than Walkers. And McCoy's are one of them. But they're the two main ones, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd have thought so. Yeah.
I mean, so McCoy's win that all day long, aren't they?
McCoy's versus Walkers is like Luton versus Watford the first time round.
Who's who?
Oh, yeah, McCoy's are Luton all day long, of course. I mean, they weren't even very good yesterday. They weren't even any more up for it than what we were. They just so happened to be gifted 2 goals and we weren't.
Please don't spoil my appreciation of this crisp situation by talking about
Well, we
football.
open him.
Well, these are new. The Dynamiter Extra Flaming Hot Doritos.
With no dip, though. Doritos without dip is like...
I don't think this is a dip situation. I think this is fine. You're just going to... Yeah. You go first. I like spice. The trouble is, when most crisps say they're flaming hot, they're usually not.
Well, I wasn't expecting something that looked like pasta in there.
Can you cope with that?
Can I? What,
Yeah.
flaming hot?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're about to find out.
Exactly. I hope you can't. It'd be better on the camera.
It's like getting extra hot at Nando's and out comes lemon and herb.
That's just tangy, isn't it?
Hmm.
Oh, man. That was a bit of kick at the end.
Oh, yeah,
So-
Rich.
Is there? Look at him. Oh. Got ya?
Yeah.
I still think they're tangy. You mentioned Nando's. Extra hot. It's not even hot enough for me. So there you go. Just putting that out there.
Save that, because Nando's flavourings might have to be another one if this football team doesn't improve sometime soon.
Has that got you?
Has actually. Hold
Right.
on a minute.
It's a decent flavour, but It's not hot.
What's the shape of them all about?
I suppose they're supposed to look like dynamite sticks.
Give me a cheesy Dorito and salsa dip.
I've not had these since I was a kid, actually. Space Raiders.
Well, when we were kids, they were 10p, not 40p.
Yeah, it's a disgrace, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's how
that
old we are.
both tells you how old we are and how inflation's
They
gone
might
out
have
of
even been
control.
5p. You reckon?
10p when 10p for me.
We'll see. Let's open them up. I've never had the... They don't smell too great.
Oh, I get to go first, do I?
Yeah. I mean, that is rubbish.
Well,
That is rubbish. Even 40p, that is terrible.
to be honest, that was rubbish at 10p.
That, if you want a football equivalent, is your man that told Graham Souness at Southampton that he was George Weah's cousin, and they signed him and put him on and quickly realised he wasn't and whipped him off again. What was his name? Ali something.
Yeah. Dai, was it? Ali Dai?
Something like that. That's what that is.
That's
is
still my favourite
I mean,
football story, I reckon.
Absolutely hang your head in shame, whoever makes those. Waste of time.
What's next? Cheese and onion? We know what these taste like. Of the 4 that's left, which one goes in a crisp sandwich? I love crisp sandwiches.
Of the 4 that's left.
Yeah. They Whatsits don't. In fact, I don't actually know what Whatsits are there for.
I think put them out at a party. I don't think, as much as they are amazing, the Monster Munch,
They're not crisp
you
sandwiches.
can't put that in a
are they?
crisp sandwich. So then you're just left with the McCoys,
Well,
aren't you?
I had cheese and onion yesterday.
McCoys?
No, Walkers.
Oh, well, that's where you fell down then. If you had a packet of cheese and onion McCoys in a crisp sandwich, you'd have been golden. Walkers don't stand up to a sandwich. They just haven't got the fortitude.
But there's just about the right amount in a packet that goes in the sandwich. That is where they just whack it in and it's good. What flavour are you for crisp sandwich then?
You had to twist my arm. Yeah, I think salt and vinegar.
I mean,
Out
think
of all
one
the
thing
regular
we can agree,
flavours-
we're not going nowhere near ready salted for a crisp sandwich, are we?
I don't know why anyone would go near ready salted full stop. Well, that's why we haven't got any here. I refuse to get those. Waste of time.
Underrated flavour roast chicken.
They still make those.
They do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's Walkers though, isn't it?
Overrated smoky bacon.
So, crisp sandwich, out of the ones we've got, we're having that.
No. You're having that. I'm having that.
Oh, yeah. They were hidden behind the sheer size of the Monster Munch packet. Yes.
Flame
agree with you.
grilled steak all day long. I'll take a moment and have a crisp sandwich shortly.
Over my dead body.
Best crisp ever. Are we going with that Brannigan's? It's not for me. It's T-bone steak roasters. Oh my God, they are.
I mean, no one questioned your judgment.
They are good.
T-bone steak roastons are better than Brannigan's roast beef and mustard. I mean, come on.
The goat.
No chance. I mean, at least they exist. If you're going on the fact that they exist, then you're correct, because Brannigan's don't.
Supposedly they do, but I can't track.
Service station. That's what you need.
Sounds pricey, that.
By the way, it's an absolute outrage that crisps are now pretty much all $1.25. $1.25 for crisps.
It's probably better value in £1.25 for a packet of that crisp than 35 quid that I paid for a ticket to Derby Day yesterday, to be fair. Don't worry about your value. I can give you poor value for money, no problem, and it's not these. Favourite flavour?
What's its fiery crunch? And I'm annoyed because my local corner shop has stopped serving them in favour of regular flavoured What's It's Crunchy.
Don't they know who you are? Can't they get a box in for you especially?
I mean that's outrageous.
So when Walkers do these fancy Dan things like roast beef and stuffing, or roast chicken and stuffing, or, you know, all these other ones, are you on them or are you just...
I'll give them a go, but they usually always taste like the same flavour, don't they?
Yeah.
With a different packet.
So just bringing it back a little bit more in line with yesterday, obviously when football's hacked you off, which basically has been the last 9 months, what's your go-to crisp to make you feel better?
Lots of them.
Well, naturally, we're not talking one packet.
My go-to crisp, the Tesco's own brand, salt and vinegar, but the vinegar is like Chardonnay vinegar. It's a bit poncy, and they'll rip your tongue up if you eat them all, which I do. But that.
Very.
What about you?
I can't get the crisps that I want. can't find them anywhere for love nor money. People who come to football games with me will know full well that it's very rarely is there an away journey where a packet of these don't get devoured. Particularly on the way back, particularly having endured the 2 hours prior to it. This is usually the safety valve on the way home.
Yeah.
Plain grilled steak McCoy's.
I'm definitely on a Monster Munch pickled onion vibe at the moment.
We've got to discuss this. What on earth has that got that roast beef hasn't?
Pickled onion. I mean, what do you mean?
Roast beef Monster Munch is the future.
This is outrageous. I mean,
pickled onion.
How long have we been friends?
Yeah,
and you're coming at me with that nonsense. Pickled onion, Monster Munch are the daddy of Monster Munch, and probably one of the daddy of all crisp stroke corn-based snacks.
Pickled onion Space Raiders, I can give you. To be honest, even flaming hot Monster Munch.
No way. I can't believe you're saying this to me. This is sacrilege. Of all the things you've said to me, how many times we've been in here doing this bloody podcast?
People wanted us to disagree, Jimbo. They expected us to disagree over football.
Let me tell you, this one used to be hit and miss. You used to get a pack of this, and sometimes it would taste of nothing, and then other times it's pure pickled onion, and they've straightened it out a bit better.
I mean, my big problem with Monster Munch as a brand is very much in keeping with the modern world, that bags get bigger, contents get a hell of a lot smaller.
Isn't that just we've got bigger, our hands have got bigger?
There might be that, but there is definitely less Monster Munch in a packet now than there were back in the day, and they've grown in size.
I'll give you that. But that's across the board everywhere. We're all being stiffed for everything, aren't we? That's what's going on in the world.
Don't get that from Royster's T-bone steak, mate. You've got the same packet all along.
I'm not going to give you...
So that's your star man for crisps, is it?
Out of the selection we've got here, yeah, I thought it would be old Eric Cantona here, but the Doritos Dynamite Flaming Hot aren't that hot.
It's more Eric Jemba than Eric Cantona, isn't it?
Yeah. Got to be. They've dug out a consistency. You know, every time you go to them, they're an 8 out of 10. They used to be a bit like sometimes they're a 5, sometimes they're a 7. Now they've got the flavour sorted. It's pickled onion Monster Munch out of these.
8 out of 10. Oh, for an 8 out of 10 consistency, Jimbo.
Well, that's what we're all looking for, isn't it? Yeah, well, I'll take a 7, but there you go.
Based on yesterday, to be honest, I'll take a few 6s right now.
I thought we'd be eating more of these, to be honest.
We're going to do that when we stop rolling. The one thing I do want to say, actually, bringing it back to yesterday, Mark Crowther, saw him again. Walked from Luton to Watford. Really didn't get the reward that his efforts deserved. We all made an effort to get there, but nothing in the way of walking from Luton to Watford. All we heard in terms of sound bites was how, before the game that is, how they wanted to give us a performance that showed that the players knew how much it meant to the fans. Well, we didn't get that. I mean, do you know what? If you really want to do that, club together and put a donation towards these charities, because bloke deserves it. That's the very least he deserves, That's not a short walk. It's certainly not a walk I'd fancy doing, Luton to Watford, and to have that played back to us, not great, really.
Yeah, what you're seeing is not. It's not good enough. It's not good enough in the slightest.
I mean, people have criticised me when I said last time that 35 million has been spent on this squad. They then came at me, what about the money recouped? Let me just rephrase that again. Of the squad we have, £35 million has been spent on it in the last 2 transfer windows. Forget the people that we've sold and recouped the money from. The people representing us right now are worth, in terms of transfer fees that we paid, 35 million quid, the ones that came in the last 2 transfer windows. You should never be bottom of the Championship with that sort of outlay.
Nope. No, that's... Yeah, I don't know where we go from here. I don't know. Well, I know where we go. We're basically facing 12 games. Well, you take 2 out, which are Burnley and Leeds, probably. We can't score again. No one will score against Burnley. And
it would be so ironic if we pitch up there and score.
Yeah, you take those out, so that's 10 games. Seemingly can't win away. You take out the away games. I think there's one more 3-game week that we can't win anything on a 3-game week. Actually, when you look at it, Plymouth was a 3-game end of a 3-game week, a Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday. So got a first point there. That was the first point. Then Watford was also a 3-game week. Well, it was 8 days, really, if you want to be pedantic, but nothing. So that run has been forevermore this season. So you're really scrabbling around for where those points are going to come from.
So basically what you're saying, all we've got for comfort is crisps.
Crisps will always be there for you. When the football's bad, when the football's not going how you want, then crisps will always be there.
Let us know your favourite crisp. What is the granddaddy, the goat of crisps? And, which ones would you transfer into our 5-a-side team? Admittedly, we would transfer a few into this team. I guess we were Matt Bloomfield, weren't we? We can only pick what's available to us at the time. But, let us know. Have we put that formation right? Tell us in the comments, because no one wants to comment about the football, do they? So,
well, I bet they do. And listen, if you've got this far and you don't like the crisp chat, don't put it in I don't care. Don't put it in the comments. Either get on board and rank some crisps, or keep it stum. Yeah,
we just couldn't really. And we should say this isn't the fact that it was Watford. We were getting towards the end of whoever we were playing yesterday. Had it have been another one of those performances, it's the 4th time in 11 days with a little bit of hope in the first half of the Sheffield United game mixed in between. We can't keep churning out the same podcasts and expect you guys to listen to it. So you said you wanted crisp chat. We gave you crisp chat. And let's hope we can get back to a bit more positive football in the lead up to the Portsmouth game and afterwards. Just the one correct score, which, gotta be honest, Jimbo, did surprise me, even allowing for the fact that Luton fans probably didn't want to predict a Watford win. Neither of us were prepared to do it. But Nick Evans' 7.594 was, and the only one who picked 2-0, so well done to you. There were a few others that went for a Watford win, but got nowhere near the scoreline. But that's all been jumbled up into the leaderboard, which is about to appear on your screen. No change to him and you. You're still, I think it's 9 points ahead, is it? Game's massively running out, and I might have to admit defeat in that battle, as much as I've pretty much admitted defeat in the chances of the Town staying up. But who knows? They play the games, because you never know. Football was played on paper, we were down, but thankfully it's played on grass.
Well, that's what sort of when lots of hopes have been stripped away, and they have, and they continue to be, that there is still some hope in the fact that there is games left. That if you want to look at it that way, mathematically, yes, Luton can get out of this, and it's currently not as dire a situation it was as in the Great Escape. So there's precedent, obviously, but we can only go by the evidence of what we've seen, and what we're seeing at the moment does not suggest that situation is going to change.
I mean, just talking about the Great Escape, it was around about now that Graham Jones started to put that 6 or 7 game run of form together before COVID hit. I mean, COVID hit sort of March 10th-ish, so we're only a week and a bit out from that anyway. This run of form's nothing like that, and then we still had to turn it around even more from on top of that, didn't we? The only saving grace is I do think the 2 teams right above us are as bad as us. Unfortunately, we need another one to be as bad, and Hull is showing that it's not them.
Yeah, unless somebody else can get dragged into it, and realistically, you might need that to be Portsmouth at the moment.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you're looking at Cardiff, I'm pretty sure this weekend it's Cardiff against Derby, so even if Cardiff get dragged into it, it means Derby have got a result to get themselves out of it.
Well, like I say, Portsmouth have let in more goals than Luton, astonishingly, but they seem to know where the net is at the other end as well. So that's the difference, isn't it?
Is indeed. 4 goals in 8 games is a pretty damning indictment of where we've been, really. Or where we are, should I say, not where we've been. It's not so much the 4 goals in 8 games, is it? Particularly with 2 of them coming in 1. It's just the lack of chances now, particularly away from home. I think it's something along the lines of, and I haven't checked this exactly right, but we're somewhere in the vicinity of 10 shots on target in our last 7 away games. Not good.
Nope, you cannot dress this up.
And we've not tried to, and nor will we try to. So we'll come. I'm sure there's lots of people out there shouting at us, why don't you talk about what's got us in this situation? We will do. There's a time for the inquest.
We have done. We have done. Like I said, a couple of podcasts back, the time for inquests is
when it's confirmed.
When it's done, when it's over. At the minute, if there's a chance, you've got to try and grab it. It just doesn't feel very positive at the moment.
Indeed so, yeah. Thanks very much for watching or listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. And as I said earlier, all of the podcasts over the last 11 days, they've been coming thick and fast with this flurry of games. Thankfully, we've got a little bit of a shortage of them over the next couple of weeks until that away game at Cardiff, which is looking bigger and bigger and bigger by the day, has to be said. Thanks as always to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, comfort yourself with a bag of real McCoys.
No. Pick it on your Monster Munch.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
The Luton people. And